I was a TV weatherman for more than 40 years. I talked about floods and storms and tornadoes and blizzards and ice storms and all kinds of things. And when I wasn't talking about that, I was talking about what you could see in the sky. Things like eclipses, meteor showers, various planets, and so on. But I'm not the weatherman anymore. But I still have a lot to talk about. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Hey Kevin Show. Here it is, the year 2026. And this second week of January, when we're recording this, temperatures have risen up into the 50s and even near 60 degrees. And so you think, hey, are we ever going to get any more snow? Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say we'll never have any more snow. As a matter of fact, I do believe it will snow again. And actually, it could be an accumulating snow as well. So as we anticipate that, let me talk to you about today's weather word. All right? Today's weather word is Sitzmark. No. It doesn't have anything to do with underwear. Stop that. All right. Sitzmark is the dent you make in the snow when you fall. So there's snow on the ground, you fall, you make this big impression, this big dent. That's called a Sitzmark. Sitzmark. So now you know a little something. Now, this also brings us to some questions about snow. So let's go ahead and do the weather quiz. The weather quiz is, it can be too cold to snow. True or false? It can be too cold to snow. Think about that. The answer is false. Yeah. Now, that may not make a whole lot of sense to you. That kind of goes against common sense. It is possible for snow to form under very, very cold conditions. It's not real likely, but it's not impossible. So it's true, it really can never be too cold to snow. Though when it gets really, really cold, it rarely snows. But technically, it can never be too cold to snow. So talking about winter and snow and so on, let's do a little bit of weather history, shall we? Those of us who have been here in the Wabash Valley for any length of time probably can name a winter or two that stands out in your memory. Some of you probably, if you're old enough, will say, well, it was 1978. The blizzard of 78 was just the worst we had here in Indiana. And actually it was. And it also was one of the worst in Illinois. So the blizzard of 78, in case you don't remember, it happened January the 25th to the 27th in 1978. More than 30 inches of snow with snow drifts feet high. Roads were closed. As a matter of fact, the state of Indiana closed every road during the blizzard of 1978. There was 55-mile-an-hour wind, temperatures below zero, and a wind chill of as much as 50 degrees below zero. So you see, that was quite a storm, that big blizzard of 1978. So let's say you weren't around here in 1978. How about the cold of 2014? Remember that? Up to 10 inches of snow, followed by a plunge in temperatures with record lows of 14 to 15 degrees below zero. In Terre Haute, the temperature stayed below zero for 34 hours, and at times wind chills approached 40 below. So if you were around in 2014 and remember that cold blast in the snow, that was a winter to remember as well. Now, try to imagine that with no electricity, inadequate heat and water supplies, and for the most part, you're sleeping in a tent. Think about that. That takes us back to the hard winter of 1780. The hard winter of 1780. It was during the Revolutionary War. The American troops had already endured the snow and cold of Valley Forge, and that was in 1777. Remember when they were walking and marching through snow, several inches of snow, barefoot. They didn't have coats and clothes and things like that. That was Valley Forge, and you think, wow, that was the worst ever. But it wasn't, because shortly after, in the winter of 1780, it really hit. So one half of the, well, let me take you back for a second. Talking about Valley Forge, there was a fellow named General Nathaniel Greene, and he wrote at the time, "One half of our troops are without breeches, shoes, and stockings, and some thousands without blankets." What an effort it was for the American troops back in the 1700s. What an effort it was to battle for the independence of what would be the United States. That was really something. Those are pretty strong men. But the winter of 1777, Valley Forge was actually a mild winter because it hit and then it backed off. And then there was another hit a little bit later in the season. But I need a haircut. So mostly the winter of 1777, 1778, it was a brutal winter, but it was mild compared to what happened in the winter of 1780. So what happened in the winter of 1780? Listen to what Samuel Lane, he was from New Hampshire. He wrote in his diary, all right? This is what Samuel Lane wrote in his diary about the winter of 1780. "The most hard, difficult winter that was ever known by any person living." Does that sound extreme to you? Well, he wasn't exaggerating. Records show that the winter of 1780 was the only time in American history that all saltwater inlets, harbors, and sounds from North Carolina all the way up the east coast of the United States, they all froze. All of the inlets, the harbors, everything froze solid. And it's rare that they freeze solid because it's saltwater, you know. So supply ships and other trades had to come to a halt because of the frozen harbors. The average sunrise temperature, in January of 1780 was 4 degrees. And during January of 1780, the only day that reached above freezing was January the 30th. So add to that heavy snow and the winter totaling 3 to 4 feet of snow were on the ground at that time. It was brutal, and the snow stayed all winter. It didn't melt away like our snow does these days. It was so cold and miserable there was, now this is kind of interesting. It was so cold and miserable that there was an increase in people getting married. Yeah, so that they could sleep together. Because I guess back in 1780, it was really frowned upon for people to sleep together. So they decided to get married so they could be warm and sleep together. The only other American winter that we know of that might match closely to 1780 was the winter of 1740. And even then, those who lived through the winter of 1740 said, yeah, 1780, that was the worst winter ever. And actually, it was so bad that in March, General George Washington wrote to General Lafayette. And this is what General Washington wrote. "The oldest people now living in this country do not remember so hard a winter as the one we are now emerging from. In a word, the severity of the frost exceeded anything of the kind that had ever been experienced in this climate before. And that is what happened during the winter of 1780. It's hard to imagine as we experience this winter of 2026. So far, it hasn't been anything near what they had to put out back in the 1700s. Let's talk about what's in the winter as we take a look at January of 2026. I think probably the most impressive sight that you're going to see in the night sky is Jupiter, that mighty, huge planet, the biggest planet in our solar system, which is a gas planet, by the way. It's not solid, really. It's kind of gassy. So if I guess you jumped out of a spaceship and thought you'd land on Jupiter, you get crushed by the pressure, but you wouldn't hit any ground. It's made of hydrogen and helium. So if you were up there on Jupiter and you did make it, and you were able to walk around if that was possible, because there's a lot of helium, you'd be talking like this. So I don't think that would be all that great. So as we speak, Jupiter is approaching opposition. That'll happen on January the 10th. Jupiter is already bright, but when a planet reaches opposition, what that means is that it's opposite the sun compared to Earth. So we're here on Earth, see, and the sun is there, but Jupiter is there. And the sun's light is shining directly on Jupiter, which causes it to be extremely bright. You can't miss it. Go out any night, look to the east, and you'll see Jupiter. You cannot miss it. And while you're out there, take a little bit of a look to your right and see if you can find Orion. Orion, the most famous of the constellations, I think, with Orion's 3 stars of Orion's belt. You can see them. There are 3 stars almost in a line. There are 2 stars, 2 actually fairly large stars, and then another star is in that line, but not quite. It's a little out of line, and that's Orion's belt. And you look south, or you look below that belt, and you'll see a little nebula, a little string of starry gas and things like that. That is the nebula. And a lot of times when people in the old days imagined Orion, they imagined Orion's belt and then this little dangly thing, and they said, well, that's his sword, that's his spear, see? So at any rate, Orion, the mighty hunter, a beautiful winter constellation. And below Orion is the brightest star in the sky, and that is the star Sirius. I love the winter sky. The only thing is that if you're going to go out and look at the winter sky, most times you have to really bundle up because it's so cold. But it is an absolutely spectacular sight. So get out there, take a look at Jupiter, Orion, and Sirius. You'll be glad you did. Between January the 1st and January the 31st, we will have gained about 44 minutes of additional daylight. We're getting more daylight because of Earth's tilt. Now remember, the Earth is tilted at about 23.5 degrees. Nobody really quite knows why it is. I think the common belief, the most popular belief, is that Earth is tilted because sometime way long ago, we got hit by something really big, and it knocked Earth askew a little bit to about 23.5 degrees. Now, this might blow your mind a little bit. Remember that the Earth is tilted somewhat, but also keep in mind the Earth does not orbit the sun in a perfect circle. It's more elongated, kind of an ellipse, sort of a long orbit like that. So sometimes we're closer to the sun, and sometimes we're farther away. Now, a day length is measured from noon until noon. All right? Noon one day until noon the next day. That's how you measure what we call a solar day. The average length of a solar day is about 23 hours and 56 minutes. In fact, it's 23 hours and 56 minutes. But because of the Earth's sort of stretched out orbit around the sun, actually not all days are the same length. According to Steve Hurley, around Christmas Day, now get this, the length of a solar day is 24 hours, 30 seconds. That's around Christmas. In September, about September the 15th, the length of the solar day is 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 38 seconds. So the official measurement of a solar day changes from December to about September. Now, I'm sure that goes against everything you're thinking. Come on, Kev. What's going on here? It's cold in January when the Earth is closest to the sun, which we are in January, and it's hot on Earth in July when we're farther away from the sun. Well, remember, we're tilted. And so in the wintertime, we're tilted away from the sun, so we get kind of indirect rays, all right? So the solar rays are actually sort of low. But in July, the sun is higher in the sky, you get more direct rays, and that's what causes us to get hot. And the low sun angle rays in the winter time, that doesn't heat us up very much, and so that helps us to stay cold. And so there's this. Close to the sun and longer days in winter, and we're cold. Farther from the sun and shorter days in the summer, and we're hot. Really? Well, I know that might be confusing, but you'll have to trust me on this one. Our Earth-Sun relationship is working just as it should, even if it doesn't really make sense.
Here at N-Scale, we pride ourselves with a high quality guarantee. Before it leaves our warehouse, we make sure your scale is ready for you. It doesn't matter if you want to buy a 4x4, a 2x2, a Sidewinder, or a pallet jack scale. We make sure everything is calibrated and NTEP approved. So go to our website and purchase the scale you need today.
When I was young, one of the most exciting times I remember was when the Christmas catalogs arrived. Are you old enough to remember that? The Sears Roebuck catalog, Montgomery Ward's. They were packed with all kinds of things that little kids really love to see, whether it be dolls, doll houses, or trains and trucks and erector sets and those things. All of that was filled in those catalog pages, all colorful, and little kids like me would pour through the catalog for hours on end, it seems, making a list for Santa. Oh, it was so exciting when the Christmas catalogs arrived. As I grew older, I realized that little kids weren't the only ones who looked forward to getting catalogs in the mail. I'm pretty sure folks enjoyed getting those catalogs as well because there was clothing and appliances, home decor, and all kinds of things. You know, it was Christmas catalogs bringing something for everyone. Now, while children and adults alike really looked forward to getting the Christmas catalogs, it was about this time of year that my grandma Pottinger looked forward to getting another type of catalog, and that was the seed catalog. Seed catalogs are just so much fun, especially for gardeners. The first seed catalog was published in 1612, and it featured mostly bulbs and had little pictures that were hand-painted and so on. Actually, there were about 560 bulbs offered by the first seed catalog. Now, my grandma always seemed to like the Burpee catalog. Burpee Seeds, founded in 1876, still going strong, or growing strong, I guess. There's an interesting background story about Burpee Seeds, by the way. So the guy named Washington Alty Burpee initially started a chicken mail order service. See, so you would send in and you order chickens, and then he would send them to you. But the thing was, he figured out pretty quickly that that's sort of a one-time only thing, because chickens tend to perpetuate, and once you sell a chicken, it just keeps on going. You don't really need to buy another one. So he decided to start selling seeds. And there you have it. The Burpee Seed Company was born from a chicken supply firm and now is one of the biggest seed companies in the whole country. And my grandma Pottinger, I'm sure, poured over the Burpee Seed catalog just the way I did the Christmas catalog. And it all has to do with wishes. You look at the Christmas catalog and you wish what's going to happen. You look at the Burpee catalog, the seeds, and you wish how your garden is going to look and so on. You know, it really is quite a thing, getting catalogs in the mail. And if you get a Burpee seed catalog or any other kind of seed catalog, you can just think, I have these seeds, I'll toss them in the ground and watch my garden grow. Well, that's the Hey Kevin show for today. I hope you learned something. I always enjoy putting this together for you, and I dig around and try to find things that you probably won't get anywhere else. You can go just about any place and get a weather forecast or some sort of projection about what's going to happen, and that's fine because, you know, that's great. You need that. But I think it's also interesting to talk about our Earth, our climate, strange weather patterns, weather history, and so on, weather words, things you don't get anywhere else, you'll get here with the Hey Kevin show. And that's why we'd like you to subscribe, follow us, do whatever it takes. Tell your friends about the Hey Kevin show. I certainly would appreciate it. And I want to leave you with the words of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He says, the best thing one can do when it's raining is just to let it rain. Thanks for watching.